Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalist Roundtable, first he was in, then he was out. We'll take a look at Congressman Paul Gosar's very short effort to take on Senator Jeff Flake. And Governor Doug Ducey wants the feds to focus on the big stuff and leave the rest to the states. So where does that leave the cities? The Journalist Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalist Roundtable. I'm Rick DeBrule, filling in for Ted Simons tonight. And joining us, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic, Howard Fisher of the Capital Media Services, and Luigi Del Puerto of the Arizona Capital Times. Now, earlier this week, U.S. Representative Paul Gosar said he was considering a run against Senator Jeff Flake in the next election. A few days later, he apparently changed his mind.
We're currently, Mike, pulling signatures to rerun in District 4, a great district, so I'm humbled to represent that district. And we may disagree with Senator Flake on a number of issues, but we also agree with him on some of the other issues like water and lands and stuff like that. So, you know, I think this is an early time in this cycle. So, you know, we're busy pulling signatures for District 4 to look at that.
So he didn't officially say he was not running for Senate, but he said he's just running for Congress right now. So
right. Yeah. So what happened was that Congressman Gosar spoke to our reporter Jeremy Duda. Jeremy was covering the state Republican Party organizational meeting on Saturday, and Gosar said, "Well, people are not happy, and they've asked me to look into this, and so we'll consider it." So, and the story, therefore, is that he's considering running against Senator Jeff Flake. A few days later, he posted a statement on his campaign website and Facebook saying, "Nope, I'm running for re-election."
Well, let's be fair here. You know, very often, I mean, you got a couple of things. For most Arizonans, it's Paul who. Second, when lawmakers and members of Congress say, "I'm feeling a draft," usually it's generated by their own right hand. And then third, there are a lot of folks who are trying to clear the way if there's going to be a challenge to Jeff Flake for somebody like a Jeff DeWitt. So, you know,
but we already have Kelly Ward in that race.
Well, but Kelly may or may not stay, and Kelly will, as she did last time, maybe pull a third. Now that becomes interesting. If it's DeWitt and Ward against Flake, then you split it three ways. You know, the conservatives have to decide, you know, do they really want a single challenger, and can Kelly be flagged off really on this? So that's crucial.
So was this a case of him just going, you know, maybe it's just not the best thing for me. I've got a great seat right now, or I don't think I can win.
Well, probably he got some indications that he probably would fare better in a rerun for District 4 as opposed to taking on a statewide race, because as Howie pointed out, I don't think he's very well known statewide. But there's also attempts to sort of sound out, you know, what's the playing field against Jeff Flake. I mean, it's going to be it'll be a midterm election. You know, a lot will depend on how the Trump presidency is going. You know, Flake has been with the president on some things, but notably not with the president on other things. So where's his opposition going to come from? Is it going to come from his right, or will it come from his left? You know,
and the primary is important because, look, a Democrat, it would be real hard for a Democrat to win there unless, of course, you know, the Republicans nominate, you know, somebody off the edge, Kelly Ward. I'm sorry. So this really does become the election for that district.
All right. So just a moment ago, we were talking about Flake being against and for the Trump administration. When the immigration ban came out last week, he was one of the members of our congressional delegation who said, I oppose it. We heard from every member of the congressional delegation, with the exception of Congressman David Schweikert, who is quiet on the issue.
Right, and that's really interesting because this issue, I think, we'll look at it a couple of years from now and say, well, that was really a momentous event, and you know, everybody said something about it, but David Schweikert was silent. Well, we called his office and emailed his office a couple of times, and they just refused to comment. And what that tells you is that I think if Schweikert were to come out, he probably would come out saying, this is not a good thing, what you're doing. And he wanted to be sure that if he did that, he is in for it all the way, because what he would be doing is he'd be setting up himself against Donald Trump.
But does it hurt him to have silence? Isn't it
Oh
better
no!
to
Oh
make
no!
a
That's
position?
oh no! That's a better. It's sort of like we have lawmakers, and Mary Jo's seen this, who voted one way when the bill comes up one time, and one way when the bill comes up the second time, and they can say I was for it before I was against it, so to speak.
Well, it depends. I mean, this issue is really resonating with a lot of people. Schweiker does have a constituency that he has to respond to, whether he's looking to run for the Senate or, to re-election in his district. And the question is, how long can he be silent? And why is this so hard to figure out? How you feel about this?
Although in the current news cycle, you only seem to be able to have to go for a day or two, and everybody's forgotten it and they've moved
the
on.
subjects changes,
and
about
that-
every hourly.
And that may be the thing. I mean, if you go back and so if somebody, a year and a half from now looks for, well, where was Schweikert on this issue? So you can't use it against them.
Right, and it really is interesting because you have seen Republican politicians, Republican lawmakers, really try to walk a very fine line, not wanting to go out swinging against Donald Trump, but also not wanting to seem like they have not heard what people have to say, that they don't care about the moral or the ethical issue of the refugee problem. Max Sally, for example, we've seen her dodge the Donald Trump issue a number of times during the campaign, but she finally said, you know what, I do agree that we need to do some sort of vetting, but at the same time, we can't stop people who already have green cards and are already living in the United States from coming back to their homes.
So you mentioned refugees, and I want to take a turn. We got a lot of topics we're going to try to squeeze in here today. There's talk at the legislature about a bill that would penalize charities that help refugees when they arrive here in the United
Well,
States.
you have to
Explain.
understand what's happening here. Arizona participates, along with many other states, in a federal refugee resettlement program. And the Department of Economic Security gets federal money to help people find jobs, learn English, find places to live. And you remember after the Paris bombings, Doug Ducey said, I don't want any more refugees, and found out you can't change that. I think Judy Burgess from Sun City West has figured out, even if you
Lawmaker
take
from Sun City
lawmaker
West.
from Sun City West figured out you cannot stop it. We can get out of the program, but they keep coming. So her solution is, I know you've got groups like Lutheran Family Services and Arizona Catholic Charities. We will find them $1,000 per refugee per day for anybody they help relocate, which seems to be sort of, excuse the expression, bass-backwards, because they're here. They're already here. You're going to tell Catholic Charities, which is helping these people who are already here, who can't be told they can't come here. But
I mean, polls taken after last week show Americans do not. They want to have some control over this. And if
Correct.
that's a way to control this, isn't that a step?
But-
The fact of the matter is that immigration is a federal issue. It's the feds that decide where to send these refugees, and whether we say we don't want them or we want them, whether we cooperate with the federal government in resettling the refugees or not, the feds get to decide all these things.
Right. In fact, you say there's talk at the Capitol, but really the talk is more outside of the Capitol, because even Senator Burgess says, look, this bill isn't really going to go anywhere. It's for discussion, and these fines that it envisions would only happen if the state suspended its participation in the refugee resettlement program. But since it's not going to advance, this is all
So then what's
a
the
thinking
purpose of the
exercise.
bill?
To stir the pot, Well, and she thinks that it's well past time that Arizona sit down and think about what are we taking on in our society and with our government obligations for refugees. I mean, after the federal money is time limited, so you're a refugee, you get some of this assistance that's passed on to you. It's federal money passed on through the state, but that ends after a while. Well, I don't know. I suppose after that, you could probably qualify, if you meet the criteria, for other certain programs that are funded by government. And she wants to take a look at that. She thinks that perhaps we're spending way too much money on that, but I don't think it's going to happen.
But this is the point, is, if you want to have that discussion, if you want to have the first half of the bill, which is suspend our participation with the feds, then fine. But to go ahead and say, and by the way, just to get your attention, we're going to impose these fines. Again, I'm with Mary Jo. This thing is it may get a hearing because she chairs a committee if it gets assigned to that. But in terms of it going anywhere realistically, I mean, I don't even see the governor who wants to suspend refugees signing it. But it just seems, Arizona already has a reputation to live down, going back to Senate Bill 1070, going back to some of the other stuff dealing with discrimination against minorities, against gays and everything else. this isn't the kind of headlines we need.
Right, and I did speak with Don Shooter, who's a representative from Yuma, and he's a co-sponsor of this bill. And I talked to him. I said, Don, help me understand why you want to penalize groups that are in effect doing the Lord's work. And this organization, many of them are faith-based organizations. They think they believe in this mission because they think this is what their faith mandates them to do. And I said, so why are you penalizing them? And he paused for a second there and he said, basically what he said is that I would be more charitable if I were the one writing the bill. However, he does believe that there needs to be a better vetting process of people who are coming in. And he agrees with Trump's ban on the refugee program.
Well, that's fine, but that deals with the federal government. That's exactly it. Now, if Trump has a way of extreme vetting or whatever you want to call it, that's fine. There is nothing the state can do. The federal government can place people here. And let's even assume the federal government places people in New Mexico. They can't be stopped at the border unless you're going to put the National Guard at the border to keep them from coming.
All right, since we're bringing up federal responsibilities and rights, earlier this week in the Yellow Sheet, which you edit, Luigi, there was an article about Doug Ducey and a comment he made saying that he advised the Trump administration that they need to stick to the things that the federal government is responsible for, foreign policy and the issues that really relate, and leave everything else to the states. But then again, the states seem to be mixing into the cities and telling them what to do. Do we have a mixed message?
Right. Well, yeah, obviously, there is some criticism that the state government, the Republican-led state government, is having a double standard. On the one hand, they're saying the Fed shouldn't tell us what to do, or they should keep to the major things and allow us to deal with education, for example, healthcare, all that stuff. On the other hand, they are mandating the cities and threatening them. In fact, passed a law last year that said, well, if you're not going to follow a state law or the Arizona Constitution and the Attorney General concludes that you're not following those laws, then we're going to take away your state revenues. So yes, there is some validity to the criticism that there is a double standard. However, what you will hear from Republicans is the argument that, yeah, sure, but the relationship between the state and the federal government is different than the relationship between the state and the cities. They're saying the cities are political subdivisions of the state. And, you know, the states have sovereignty. They're, in theory, independent states.
Yeah, and that goes to the theory that is the states that created the federal government.
And no one refers to cities' rights. We always talk about states' rights.
Except for the fact that in the Arizona Constitution, there are charter cities who have a constitutional right to control their own destiny. And that's when the fight's being fought right now over the Tucson gun ordinance.
And you know what's interesting is that we have some cities in Arizona that are older than Arizona. You know, I mean, they've been around longer. So, but it's all a power. It's a power control. And I always marvel at the people who have been city council people standing up for their city or town, and then they move over to the legislature, and then all of a sudden it's a big bad.
And when they get to the federal government, it's them telling us. All right,
there's one other piece of this that you have to understand. A lot of Doug's comments were at a little retreat that the Koch brothers hold on a regular basis, the little beauty contest. Doug was one of 3 governors who was there. Understand, a lot of the audience in some ways was the Koch brothers, who would rather have a lot of stuff governed at the local level where they can have a lot more influence, you know, over Arizona legislators than perhaps at the federal level. So, you know, this was perhaps our governor kissing the rings of the Koch brothers, and we won't ask what pocket those rings were in.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. We've got plenty more to talk about, including what could potentially be a major change to the way that the courts are structured out west. We'll talk about that in just a moment.
The true measure of all our actions is how long the good in them lasts.
This is who I am, where I'm from.
If you're on the right side of history, you can accomplish anything.
It's a connection between your present and your past.
Come this way. This is good. This is very good.
We are attempting to fulfill the promise of America.
The stories about who we are shape us.
This is a chance to go through a time machine.
Good heavenly days.
We should know our history.
It informs, but it doesn't constrict you.
It's a framework to carry out human activity.
The sky is the limit.
It started a long time ago.
Well, you may have heard of something called the Federal Circuit Court. There's the Ninth Circuit Court, the various ones around the country. Arizona is part of the Ninth Circuit Court. There is now talk, however, in Congress, a bill put out by Congressman Andy Biggs that would take us out of the Ninth Circuit Court and move us to something called a 12th Circuit Court. And here's Senator Jeff Flake to explain why.
But more than anything, it's an issue of access to justice, swift access to justice. That's what our Constitution, that's a bedrock principle that we have, and our Constitution guarantees us. And the problem is the workload of the Ninth Circuit is more than twice what the next circuit has. And so the time that it takes to actually get that access to justice is just much, much greater.
So the argument is simple. There's so many cases in the Ninth Circuit Court that they need a 12th Circuit Court, a new circuit court, to take some of the load off. I'm hearing a lot of dissenting comments right here.
I mean, yes, there is a workload issue, but there's also the fact that Arizona, you ask California, they're rather happy with the Ninth Circuit. Arizona, not so much, because when state laws go up before that, that circuit court, they're often rebuffed. A lot of it is ideological and political.
And let's talk about something else. What's not mentioned in there is that there are something like 23 active judges in the Ninth Circuit and a whole bunch of senior judges. There's plenty of judges to spread the workload around, so that's number one. Number two, this is the same excuse we heard about why we need to pack the Arizona Supreme Court with 2 more justices. And as Mary Jo points out, it's philosophical. The Ninth Circuit does get overturned in general more than most other circuits on a proportional basis. Now, why do we need it's interesting how they want to draw the map. They'd like to draw Washington, Oregon, California, and maybe Guam, I'm not sure where Guam fits into it, into one circuit, and then the more conservative states, like Nevada,
Arizona, Utah, Alaska,
Montana.
and into that. Do we get to shop for our own sort of justice? I mean, should we have a separate court for the East Valley versus the West Valley instead of a Maricopa County Superior Court because of the workload?
All right, but let's talk about one thing. This bill has come up before, this discussion has come up before, but these are different times. Is it more likely that it will come to pass this time?
That's really hard to say, but my gut feel is probably not. And you're right, this is not the first time we talked about it. The Governor Doug Ducey, this is one of his big talking points in his State of the State address last year. He had deployed his staff and personnel and basically pointed out the same things that Jeff Flake is now pointing out: the workload issue, the fact that the Ninth Circuit Court gets overturned more on the average than the other courts. But I think Mary Jo is right. This is ideological. Arizona gets overturned a whole lot. We don't like this court, and we want to have our own court.
It's good to have your own court because the fact is just yesterday the full Ninth Circuit on divided vote upheld a lawsuit against Arizona for not granting driver's licenses to Dreamers. So they think, a different court might come up with a different result. And that's what this is all about.
Let's move back to Arizona's legislature. Bills to change the initiative process. And the argument is it would make it more difficult to gather petitions, to have a citizen initiative on the ballot. The idea that instead of paying them as an incentive per signature, that they would have to pay an hourly wage, they'd have to post a bond. One side is saying it's about time we reform this system. Another side is saying it's simply an effort to prevent initiatives.
Yeah, I mean, this is, most immediately, this is a reaction to Prop 206, the minimum wage effort. The business community, hated that proposal, but couldn't put together a campaign, couldn't stop it from getting on the ballot. Declined to finance a campaign to run against it. That's expensive. So now they are suing, and they've got a date in court later this month to see if that's going to go anywhere. But they are just incensed that these out-of-state interests can come in and help finance an initiative drive and get something on the ballot. And you ignore the fact that it's the people that have approved this, yes or no.
But we have seen companies, literally individual companies, that have come in, funded initiatives, and the petition gathered.
But what's wrong?
But saying, as opposed to the out-of-state money that helped elect our governor, that helped elect our legislators, that out-of-state money is good. Look,
but you're going back to that argument. It's the people who voted for those.
I understand, and that's why I'm saying we don't prohibit out-of-state money going to legislators or out-of-state groups gathering signatures for legislators. Look, let's be serious. Most legislators, and certainly the business community, hates initiative process because we don't control it. The business community controls, and I know that's not a word they like, a certain number of legislators. Glenn Hammer says, I'd like this, well, guess what happens? And so they can't control, the people may have other ideas,
and
whether it's payday loans or minimum wage.
But I think it's much deeper than that. I think really what you have is a century-old grudge between lawmakers and the people. When Arizonans voted for, adopted a constitution, they gave themselves the right to make the laws. And lawmakers don't want that because that competes with their inherent ability to write the laws, and those two groups have been clashing ever since.
But the argument's been this is the easiest state for the people to create a law through an initiative, and the toughest one to overturn.
But it isn't easy. I mean, you've got to get north of 250,000 signatures on a petition to
just for statutory
and more for if you want to change the Constitution. And in this day and age, you just cannot get that by standing out on the street corner with your little petition. You've got to hire people. So petition passers have been paid by the signature, which is an incentive for productivity. This would take away that and put them on an hourly basis, which now with the minimum wage is $10 and soon to go up to $12. And that starts to get very, very expensive. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be some deep-pocketed groups that would still come in and do it. But again, it ignores the fact that the whole idea is to get something before the people and see what they'll say. And then another point, yes, lawmakers hate this, and I get it because but they worked themselves into a corner because after the voters in the 90s approved a medical marijuana measure, the governor and legislature came in and changed it or said, we're not going to follow through on this. So the citizens came back with another initiative, then created this thing called the Voter Protection Act, which said thou shall not touch things that the voters have approved unless you're going to advance it. It's almost impossible now to overturn a citizens' initiative, but whose fault is that? There was a reaction to government overreach. So it appears that this is an effort to really throw more stop sticks, if not a total wall like with Mexico, in the path of a citizen initiative.
And some of these things the legislature could do on their own and do them by statutes. But the big ones, the Voter Protection Act, for example, they wanted to change that. They'll have to go back to the voters and ask the voters to basically overrule themselves.
Yeah, they're in a box.
And so it really is a tough message to be making to the people and saying, hey, we would like you to overturn yourselves.
Yes, and it's sort of like, well, you're too stupid because you enacted these measures, but never mind, you elected us.
All right, let's talk about some other things going on at the Capitol. Shooting bills. There's two bills related to shooting. One which would potentially change what we know as Shannon's Law, the law where if you shoot a gun into the air and the bullet ends up hurting somebody, you have a criminal penalty to pay. The other one deals with something called rat shot or snake shot. Let's start with the Shannon's Law bill and explain what is the change and why.
The law says it is now a felony to fire a weapon in the city. It's simple criminal negligence. You can become a felony. Now, Tony Rivera, who's a state lawmaker, said, well, but what if it's just an accident that you just happen to have your gun, just happen to have your finger on the trigger, and just happen to fire in the air? And so we don't want people being prosecuted for accidents. Well, let me read you something in terms of what the law requires to be prosecuted. It requires that the risk must be of such nature and degree that failure to perceive it constitutes a gross deviation from the standard of care the reasonable person would observe in the situation. This is an accident. People don't get prosecuted for accidents. Bill Montgomery, the county attorney, said people aren't prosecuted for accidents. This is just another excuse to provide more rights to gun owners to fire their weapons in the city.
Well, and
that's
frankly,
all this is.
if you fire a gun, in the city, I live in the central city. I mean, the bullet goes up or it goes out, it's got to come down somewhere. And I don't think there's big, empty pastures where it's going to land.
That's exactly the point. I mean, it's the same thing with this rat shot, snake shot bill, which says,
And real briefly explain what we're talking about here.
Okay. Again, same law, cannot fire a weapon in the city. This bill says, except if you use a certain type of ammunition, so-called rat shot.
Smaller types of
ammunition. It's very, very small caliber. It would be like an eeny-teeny little shotgun shell with very fine pellets in there. And they're saying, well, you need to protect yourself against varmints in the city because, Lord knows in Mary Jo's neighborhood there are many, many snakes, political and otherwise. But again, the problem is it doesn't say you can use this when hunting varmints. It says you can use this kind of ammunition. So this is that sort of creeping bill to go ahead and undermine Shannon's Law and undermine any laws dealing with stuff. Same thing as the bill about guns in public buildings. Another bill that came out of committee today that say that if in fact you have a CCW permit, you can ignore that no gun sign. This is a perennial effort to legislate.
Luigi?
Yeah, the rat shot legislation is quite interesting. One of our reporters called a company that sells ammos and asked the staffer there, is this lethal? Is this a problem? And the person said, yeah, given the right shot, the right angle, you could die from this one. That's interesting because the author of this bill, Jay Lawrence from Scottsdale, had at one point asked people to volunteer to shot him with a rod shot, saying this is just like spreading sand. You know, they're so small that they really would not hurt. Well, I'm glad that he decided that he wasn't going to do it.
All right. We're out of time, unfortunately. I know we have many more opinions. We have many more topics. We have many more bills at the legislature we could discuss, but unfortunately we're out of time. Mary Jo, thank you very much. Luigi, thank you very much. Howard, thank you very much for coming down here. We appreciate it. Don't forget, Monday on Arizona Horizon, we will learn more about the Coyotes hockey team's big move to Tempe and hear about a new effort to find technology-driven solutions for cities. That's Monday at 5:30 and again at 10 on Arizona Horizon. Then on next week, on Tuesday, we'll talk to a family counselor, Dr. Michael Gurian, who shares insights into the mind of teenagers. I'm looking forward to that. Wednesday, a look at the Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch as an originalist. Don't forget, Ted Simons will be here Monday. Have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you. Want to be more informed? Arizona PBS delivers news and analysis with multiple perspectives, thanks to financial support from you and
The Persian Room. Travel to another world, to a land of exotic aromas and period decor for a fine dining experience. The Persian Room in North Scottsdale on Scottsdale Road, one light north of Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. Gourmet exotic cuisine at its best.
The Mostly Mozart Festival celebrates its 50th anniversary with both a look back and a look ahead, including signature performances of Mozart's first and last symphonies from the Mostly Mozart Festival Orchestra, conducted by Louis Longray. 50 years of Mostly Mozart, next time on Live from Lincoln Center.
Tonight at 8 on Arizona PBS. Explore new ideas and new worlds here on Arizona PBS, a community service of Arizona State University.
Throughout its history, Arizona PBS and volunteers have enjoyed a rich and rewarding partnership. Whether answering phones during our pledge campaigns, stuffing envelopes, or assisting with special events, volunteering is fun and provides excellent work experience, team building for a group, and a sense of community involvement and importance. If you would like to volunteer, or if you have dropped off our mailing list, we encourage you to call the number on your screen or go online at azpbs.org/volunteer. Thank you.
Coming up next on Arizona PBS, Life and World. Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.